these kind of rankings and expectations?
I mean, I feel like we've got more options this year in terms of depth on the mound. Certainly positionally, you know, when you're talking about different years, when you're going around the diamond position, you're playing a lot of young guys. But this is how, you know, when you're talking about building, you build because you play those guys early with the hopes that they continue to develop over and over. So it's different going to this. The whole ranking thing and all of that, that's nice, but you know, we talk a lot about it, but that stuff's just on paper. So we're still accountable to the same things we've always been accountable, preseason rankings or not. So it's nice. You know, it's good for them to get a little recognition, but it's on paper. It's what happens at the end of the day. But I like where we are maturity-wise going into the season. I like the options of the pitching staff going into the season. But, you know, we'll take some time to figure that stuff out.
Can you just talk about Spencer and everything that he's accomplished so far and your expectations of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's had his, you know, productive of first 2 years of college baseball as anyone has had maybe in the history of the game. You know, so I said it last year, it's hard for me to expect him to throw those numbers up again, but he did it anyway. So, you know, we just expect him to continue to be Spencer Torkelson, no more, no less. Every year of maturity, I think, is a plus, and that would apply to him or anybody else. So we just need him to continue being him. I understand, you know, just like we were talking about the rankings, I understand. Well, I don't understand because I was never in that position, but all the stuff for him personally, the expectations on him. But I think he's got a pretty good mindset that, you know, he wants to win. He wants to win for ASU, and as long as he continues to focus on that, all of that stuff will take care of itself.
What have you seen from Jason, and what was your relationship like with him before you called him out the job?
Well, I mean, I've been able to observe him professionally. We were not friends, if that's what you're getting at, but I was able to observe his pitching staffs, observe what he's done. He's been in my sights for a long time, and I think he made an immediate impact in the fall. He's got a definite plan. He's got a definite system that he follows, and if you've spent much time with him, you know, he's a baseball guy, and I think he's got a good demeanor and a good delivery, very believable. And so he's already made an impact, but you know, that relationship will continue to go because of things certain ways I like it done, certain things that he likes. My vote's bigger, but you know, it's worked out really, really well, and I'm glad that he's finally here.
Ben said it's been good to have, in addition to the staff from the outside, just different way of doing things, you know, different ideas, maybe things that were done in Washington that he can bring here. Have you found that to be the case too?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this, like, if you're in baseball, you know, this game's been around a long time, it doesn't mean you can't learn something. There have been a couple of really neat drills that I like that he's brought, even some systems of, you know, holding runners and different things, and we're all about here. There's no egos on the staff. It's as long as we win, who cares who gets the credit? Now, I like a lot of the stuff. Some of the stuff we'll use, some we won't. But you know, and I hope that he has the freedom too, or feels like he has the freedom to bring those ideas to the table, because we're never too young to continue learning. And I think our guys have benefited from some of the new stuff that he's brought in too.
How close are you two to kind of finalizing what the rotation may look like at the start of the season?
I think we got an idea of what we'd like to start it out, but the good part for us is we probably have 5 or 6 names that could possibly be in there. So, you know, it'll take a little bit of time early in the season, but the sooner we can get there, the better off I think we'll be.
How important was this fall to develop some of the pitching depth?
I mean, you got, you know, even some of the new freshman arms, which are one thing, but also even some guys that have played college baseball before are new to ASU in our program that I think are going to make significant contributions to us immediately. But, you know, it's just, if you focus on just that daily preparation or whatever, you know, it's still baseball, it's still, you know, but I'm excited to see how, we got a gazillion pitchers running around. I'm kind of, you know, we just keep saying give us 8 to 10. You know, so if we can have quality at 8 to 10, I think that's really gonna show and be a benefit for us this season.
You kind of alluded to him, but what have you seen from Tyler and Justin so far as new guys into your program?
Yeah, very, you know, fall first for me, very focused, very determined on what he wants to be. I didn't know, you know, a lot about him. I've seen the video and things like that. Personality-wise, I like it. He's very focused, and then you see the stuff-wise and what he possesses just physically. It's pretty good. But the question mark, and I think he's got a real good shot to pitch at the top of our rotation. But the big question mark is, I still need to see it, out in Phoenix, Arizona, or Tempe, Arizona here for a few outings before it's solidified. And Tyler comes with certainly a lot of accolades from what he did his freshman season. But this league's different, so you can't sit back. None of us can. You can't sit back on what you did last year. But he's got good stuff, so I would assume he's going to have some opportunities to prove himself relatively quickly too.
The physical development of the juniors and then the experience piece on top of it. From what you've seen when they come in with those pluses that they've gained over the first 2 years, how much of a difference does that make just in terms of what you can see, what you end up seeing on the field?
I mean, we were standing here a few years ago, and even at the completion of, say, their freshman year, when defensively we were a little shaky, but we talked about it. Like, you got four guys in the infield that were all freshmen, so it's going to be a little bit of this. I think that every year, from the experience standpoint, the confidence standpoint, representing your country in international play, going to the Cape Cod, that stuff doesn't hurt. So we finally have, I think a core, and certainly the junior class, a core of guys that have played before. So I'm excited to see how that, what I want to say, kind of how that applies early in the season. The only variable is probably different from years gone by too. Your first question was, you've got this expectation, this external expectation, but if we're doing our job, we don't let that stuff bother us. So I'm hoping the maturity is certainly key and an asset for us that can overcome all of that stuff.
Throughout your career, with players going off to play Team USA during the summers, how do you think that's been beneficial to them when they come back to you?
Well, it gives them another level of confidence, I think, when you're going out and you're playing against the best players in the world, and you're like, well, I belong here. And in most cases, I'm better than these guys. So when you come back to campus, I think it gives you a unique perspective. I think from a cultural standpoint and going off and seeing the rest of the world and how they treat it, I don't think that's a bad thing either. And then in some respects too, maybe it gives them appreciation for what they have. You come back to a place like this, and probably the best baseball area to play in the world, you appreciate that even more too. So I think all of those things, it's multifaceted, but I think all of them helps just make them more comfortable and more confident.
I know last year you mentioned you wanted to.
I got all these questions out of one side of my ear. What are you guys doing over here?
You mentioned you were trying to develop trust with a couple old pitchers, and it just never seemed like that came to fruition. The way the season ended, was that kind of what led you to make a change at the pitching coach?
I'm not sure your question. So when you said about the trust?
Just the way the pitchers, was it the development of the pitchers? Was the way they kind of, it didn't seem like they developed throughout the year? Was that what led to the change at the pitching coach?
I mean, there were several things. I mean, that's, you don't come by those decisions lightly. I'm trying to process the trust piece. Are you saying between
you mentioned
the pitchers?
You mentioned the trust of the pitchers, and you wanted to see that, and it just never seemed like you got to that point, and they
being
didn't
comfortable.
develop.
Yeah, I mean, it's in any pitching staff is a work in progress, and we don't want to. Mike Cather's an accomplished guy and a good guy, and we're not placing all the blame on that. Some of those decisions that we made, because it's no secret, I changed the pitching coach prior to him.
Yeah.
When you evaluate the totality of what's going on here, either the size of, or there's other things that go on being a pitching coach at Arizona State that aren't just on the field, i.e., recruiting and things like that.
Gotcha.
So in that situation, if you have where you're performing here and someone hits the market of the caliber of a Jason Kelly, I mean, we're always trying to improve. We talked about that here, and that's just the nature of the world and the world that we believe in or we live in. So I think we've made strides in the right direction on all fronts: the recruiting aspect of it, the development aspect of it, all those things, and then the trust thing. Maybe our guys, I think they like the delivery and the message that Jason's giving, because we did exit interviews in the fall, and one of the things that stuck out to me was a lot of the pitchers would preference their comments like, I want to make sure Coach Kelly this, or Coach Kelly told me this. So I could already tell there's a bond and a connection there that they want to please him. That's a good sign.
In what ways did he deliver the message that made it so effective?
It's just, to me, that's an it factor. I think that's something, and I saw something, Tom Crean, my buddy, basketball coach back in Indiana, just sent me something this week, and it's cool. It's like players aren't going to listen to you until they know you love them. So that bond and that relationship that you have in the locker room, off the field, or whatever, helps in your delivery. If you're constantly, back to your trust thing, if you're constantly beating on them, they really don't respect you. And again, I'm not implying that was going on here. I'm just saying in life. I think he's got a real good knack for not coddling, but not overly crushing. It's a skill. It's a talent to where you can come down on guys at the right time, but not turn them off. So.
You talked about development.
There we go.
Oh. What have you seen in Justin's progression from when he got here to the fall until now?
I didn't, it was funny because he kind of walked around, didn't say anything to anybody, and I'm kind of like, what is this dude, man? Like, didn't know a lot about him. We kind of had a cool conditioning day that was designed to bring out some characteristics, and he really showed up that day. And then every time we gave him the ball, it was good stuff. And I think for me, the defining moment was kind of that USA when we played the USA team. But my mind was we could have pitched him 5 to 7 innings and he would have shut him down. So I just think it's just this, as he becomes more comfortable, we got to see a little bit more of him, even talking, and I like what I see and hear. So
If McLean plays center field for you, surrounded by all these other guys that are veteran guys that have been here several years, is that kind of the perfect situation to put a guy in there and just say, go out there and play good defense for us?
And that's what it is. I think we're gonna be similar to where we were offensively last year. At least I hope so. And if that's the case, with the additions and improvements on the mound, I think our strategy should be, make it as difficult for the other team to score. And if he can play the best defensive center field, we can afford to have a little bit of development time for him offensively, which it's going to take. So I would say going into the season, that's kind of how it's shaping up. But we'll let that stuff, as always, we'll let guys win or lose your job based on your performance in the game.
How's 100% coming back to ASU going to help? And also Miles Denson getting his opportunity to start.
Well, and here's the thing with Jump. We love it because he can hit. We know he can hit. People make decisions relative to their own situation that are personal to them, and at the time, he wanted to continue based on our personnel. He thought he had a better shot doing something else. I love the fact that he had the confidence and just the desire to come back and be a part of this. So to have that mature bat in the lineup, we were going to welcome it with open arms. Defensively, if he can continue to improve there, I think he's got a shot to push some guys in the outfield. Miles Denson, to me, what I love about Miles, I was just talking with somebody about this the other day, it's kind of our culture in college baseball, in particular a place like this. You're viewed not from us, but there's this perception that if you're a senior, you're a failure. And I think you understand what I'm talking about because you didn't get drafted or whatever. Well, if you look at the rosters that are dotting the landscape of college baseball, the good programs, their rosters have senior guys on there, good, mature players. I love the fact that Miles has stayed with it every year, has been a great attitude in the clubhouse, has worked tremendously hard, and up to this point has earned the right, based on his performance in play and attitude, to be the first guy in right field. And that's kind of, I generally believe that. Like, he's not a failure. Thankfully we've got him because I've always said we've got to have good seniors in the program. That helps big time. So good for him.
Would your DH likely be someone that doesn't start in the outfield, or would it be one of the other outfield options, or would it be somebody else?
I think we got a couple options. I really do. I think, if Jump's not playing defensively, I think he's going to we certainly make a case for that. I think depending on what, we're lineup-wise trying to do, maybe a little more speed, athleticism, maybe it's Garcia, there's what I like is having some options.
Dabovic talked about how he's working on getting his fastball into more of a straight four seam as opposed to the sinker, and he's trying to work up to the top of the zone. How much have you seen that benefit his stuff over the offseason?
I haven't seen enough yet, just because some of those changes are still in progress. So that'll be one of the focuses for us as we, get closer to that opening day. Is like really allowing him to, now that we have an idea of what we want to do with him, let him get in that role, embrace that role, and work on that role. So, I mean, the long answer to that is I haven't seen enough yet. So I'm actually pretty excited to see it.
You had a couple of freshman relievers last year, Blake Brazell, Will Levine, that you've said good things about in the fall. How have you seen them develop this offseason, and what roles do you think they
I'm
can
going to
play?
say probably one of the biggest surprises, if not the biggest, has been Will Levine coming back. I mean, if you followed the program last year, a little bit of up, which is typical with freshmen, a little bit of up and down. But even from a velocity standpoint, I mean, we saw him in high school. He was, in the 9, but he's made a significant jump. Came back his first outing in the fall and was sitting mid to whatever 90s. And I was okay. So, I think he's put himself in the mix based on his maturation. Blake, we've been a little bit up and down with him. We shut him down with some arm stuff and just kind of reconstructing some things. But he's the key for me. And I've said this, I've said to JK, I said, we get that caliber of arm performing at a level, maybe it's not starter, maybe it's not even closer, but if you can have that guy coming in the middle innings with that type of stuff, it makes you different. So that's our hope with him.
There were mechanics changes a little bit with Brazell last year towards the end of the year. Are you guys trying to stick with that tighter delivery a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, but that stuff's a little in and out. But it's just, his arm, I think, works more effectively a certain way, so we're just trying to get him to understand that.
So you see him like in a 7 or 8 role, or even before that?
Maybe before that. I don't know yet. It's like saying, because we didn't have him a lot during the fall. So, but if you can get that type of arm, that type of athleticism, and it wasn't, a lot of it wasn't so much the arm action as the grip and spin. If we can get that type of stuff, and you can steal an inning in the 6th or 7th with the closer stuff, that's means we're getting where we want to be.
You mentioned that always the allure of Arizona State is the history and the national championship, and to be in that conversation at the beginning of the year, is that kind of what you've been working
That's
for?
what we laid out. I mean, I was talking to a good friend reporter today. We were talking about, much of our the business plan, if you will, that we laid out years ago, talked about exactly that, the conversation, be in the conversation for a national championship. That's the whole focus of our tenets of champs.
Yeah.
The first one is conversation. So we talked about this with the team. If you're being ranked, which is nice and all of those things, okay, you're in the conversation. Good, that's good. We're getting there. But it doesn't mean anything. So our attention and focus as a coaching staff needs to make sure we understand that. And the leaders and the veterans of our team need to understand that. And so that's what we are. But no, I'm not going to lie to you. I love the fact that guys are being recognized. We haven't had a lot of that around here yet. So it's good for that. But other than that, put it in the closet and go play.
Blake has made some strides last year with power. Has he continued to do that?
He's come back like physically. That ball's jumping off his back differently this fall. So I'm encouraged to see what he kind of does he's always been a good hitter, good contact, but even and when I say power, I'm not talking even home runs. I'm just talking doubles. So I'm excited to see that.
Thank you.
Is that it?